VIBErations podcast, part 38, Suzanne Andrews. Hi, I'm Gary Brightman, and this is my podcast called VIBErations. Established in 2018, Vibe is a book and music shop situated in Moi Wo on Lantau Island in Hong Kong. So, what's been happening at the shop recently? After Chinese New Year, things have naturally quietened down. Whilst COVID rates in Hong Kong have shot up and are growing exponentially by the day. We did have time for one last gig with Steve Bernstein, which we live streamed on Facebook, and he certainly rocked the house with his mandolin and mix of American blues, folk and rock from the Grateful Dead, Fish, Bob Dylan, the band and others. You can see the gig on either Facebook, Vibe Silvermine Bay, or on our YouTube channel, Live at Vibe HK. Whilst all events are cancelled going forward, it does mean we'll concentrate on changing Vibe's interior instead. First point of change is the small Hong Kong and Asia room at the back of the shop, which is becoming a chill-out phone box zone. If that sounds a bit weird, then you'll have to come and check it out for yourself in a couple of weeks' time. The piano is now dried out and professionally tuned and sounding sweet. Customers are already coming in and playing it. We'll also be able to use it for tiny desk gigs going forward. As well as local authors and artisans, we like to promote local musicians and singers at Vibe. So if you fancy performing a tiny desk gig at the shop one Saturday, or know someone who may do, then please contact me directly. And so, to this week's interview with author Suzanne Andrews. Suzanne's lived in Hong Kong for almost 10 years, working as a high school English teacher. She's been president of the Hong Kong Women in Publishing Society for 2.5 years and spent 5 years taking her own Bodyburn fitness classes at the Gold Coast. Prior to living in Hong Kong, Suzanne taught in Brunei for 2 years, and before that she lived in New Zealand, her home country. She taught English and maths in high schools, then had a complete break for 7 years. For 3 of those years she was manager of a large values education charity in Auckland. Her 16 staff taught life skills in 12 South Auckland schools and educated children in how to combat bullying, build self-esteem and aim high. Suzanne also taught her own confident communication classes in schools and to adults in the evenings. She worked in sales and advertising for 3 years and helped with a Yellow Pages startup magazine. Some of her great memories include singles events which she organised matching couples. At least 2 different couples are now married with children. Suzanne's 3 adult children live in LA, the Cook Islands and Auckland. She has 2 grandchildren too. Most Saturdays she catches the ferry from Chun Mun Ferry Pier, hikes across Lantau and ends up here at Vibe, perched on a tiny toddler's chair in the corner, sourcing books for her nanny Zan date with Carter, her 3-year-old grandson, whom she reads to usually for 2 hours. He loves books. Last year Suzanne published her first book in the Nita's Adventures series, Queen of the Pawpaws. She's releasing the next 2 books in the series by May, hopefully as well as another series, Nita's Eureka Pick-Me-Ups. She'll be leaving teaching in July to focus on Nita's World full-time. Her website is nitasworld.co. Welcome to Vibe, Suzanne.
Thanks a lot, Gary. So happy to be here.
Pleasure. 10 warm-up questions. Question 1 is favourite book or author?
Can I just have one?
You can have as many as you like, because people always take the mickey on this thing. So
I've got to say Big Magic by Liz Gilbert. She did Eat, Pray, Love. I think it's in that order.
Yes,
Love came last.
She did, yes. Eat, Pray, Love, yeah.
And then she wrote this book, Magic, which is like my inspiration. So, yeah, that would be my all-time fave. So, The Prophet, that I've got with me today by Khalil Gibran.
All right, I'll let you have one more then, as we know you.
How about this one? Why Men Don't Listen and Women Can't
I'll get on with it. What are you on about?
It's all about men from Mars and women from Venus.
Yes.
And it's very cool. It's a couple that wrote it. And I've just read, I got it from your book drugstore vibe. And it's just the difference between men and women. It's just like, geez, I've said it 3 times. I put the butter in the fridge and I moved it down a shelf and he still can't see it. Like, where's the butter? I'll never forget one day my younger son, Charlie, he was about maybe 18 at the time, and he came home and he was late or something for dinner. And I said to her, I started to get, pretty angry because, the accumulative thing, like women hold on to something, it just keeps on going for years if you can't let it go, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
But, and I said, well, look, last week you were late, whatever. And he turned around and he said to me, Mum, what does last week have to do with today? And it's like, he's very logical, he's a lawyer, and I'm like, point. These days, but I'm like, I've never forgotten it. It's just like, deal with it now.
Yes.
Don't
and
just
move on.
Sure.
Question 2. What's your favourite musician or artist?
So Meatloaf.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah.
Passed away recently.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I see him as an artist, not just a singer, because I was like 17 in the USA, and it's just like Bat Out of Hell and the whole thing, and he just... It was part of my life, when as a teenager you leave New Zealand and, you embark on this journey. But I just think he's wonderful because he's, there's no one like Meatloaf. So I love him. Dolly Parton's great too. I mean, her lyrics and her life and stuff. It actually was a friend of mine at Gold Coast a couple of years ago, and he was listening to podcasts by Dolly. And I didn't really know enough about her.
Yeah.
And I think her journey and the way she's dealt with things, she's always been gracious.
Yes.
And gone with what she wants. So yeah.
Do you have a preferred drink?
Well, it's seasonal, I think. At the moment, I actually didn't start drinking until I was 40. I don't know why that was, but I do, because my dad was alcoholic, didn't see much of him as a child sort of thing. I had a thing against drink, and then I started, and I've never been into a particular alcohol except, of course, when I turned 40, and then it started. And so I do like, these days, a mulled wine, and I get the mulled wine from your local...
Solomon Leader, from Leader Key Wines.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, fantastic place.
Yes.
And that mulled wine is just like off the chart. So I love that. I love Pimm's as well. My son's in LA, he and James, and when I go over we have, a Pimm's, and he's got the orange and the mint, etc. And let me see, tequila shots.
No, interesting. Oh, well, you've come to the right place. Do you have a life motto?
Wow, I have so many. There one. I love don't compare yourself to others because they're more screwed up than you think. Oh, maybe this one. You may not see, you may not hear, but all is well. Go. And Michael A. Singer, I listen to him or watch him sometimes. He's a spiritual teacher in the States. I really love it. It's like sit back, like you're sitting on a chair, and just let the anxiety or let whatever you're thinking just pass you by and just chill.
Yes.
So I kind of mentioned 3 there, but...
Yeah. Actually, I asked that question to give me tips. so you've given me some good ones there. I like those.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
good. Favourite Hong Kong walk?
Okay.
This is for somebody that loves walking.
Yeah. Well, anywhere on Lantau will pretty much do. I mean, Sunset's a bit of a killer, to be honest.
Yes.
Everyone raves about it, but there are lots of steps, and I kind of like simple trails. So... My fave would be Olympic Trail, probably.
Yes, yeah. Good one. Yeah.
It's pretty, and you can say hi to people, and they're there, It's kind of a social thing, it's a you thing, it's a safe enough thing. Speaking of which, when I was hiking with a New Zealand friend, she's since gone back to New Zealand, she says, hey, she said... Suzanne, don't panic, there's a snake. But of course I panicked and ran and screamed. And so there are the snakes there, but, I just kind of stomp along. So
they pick up on your vibrations, that's the way.
Yeah,
so. Being loud doesn't necessarily make a lot of difference, but stomping makes a lot of difference.
Which is a shame, because I do well with the loud. But
okay, do you have a favourite Hong Kong restaurant?
My favourite local cafe, which is Hito at Gold Coast, and they've got an all-day breakfast, and they're not a restaurant per se, but the coffee's great, they're great, the food's really nice. I used to love going to Santorini, the Greek restaurant in Central. I haven't been there for a while.
Faced with a python while walking up to the peak, what would you do?
Oh, jeez. I lived on Borneo Island for almost 2 years.
Wow.
And I saw photos of pythons. I didn't actually see them in person. What would I do? How far away from me is that python?
Well, just be over there, sort of thing. Perhaps where the chair. So you're far enough to be able to escape if you want to. You sound like you've got the same sort of phobia as I have, I guess. Yeah.
I'm bolting. I'm 180. I'm out of there. I'm just running and probably screaming. Like seriously. Sorry, can I butt in and tell a little story?
Please do. Yeah.
All right. When I was in Borneo Island, just when I was about to leave, the Bomba, who are the local firemen there, they spend every day basically getting cobras out of houses and stuff. They had the python that had just swallowed a goat, and it took, I think, 10 or 11 of them to hold the thing. And they put and it's like, and when I first came to Hong Kong, in Sai-Kung, I read about how this particular python had swallowed 2 families' pet, cats or dogs.
It's quite horrible, isn't it? What they do. They constrict and then they consume, basically.
Have you seen one?
I've seen a python, I'm out in our village. There was one wrapped around a tree quite a lot of times, as you would do, as you expect. But there was enough people. There was a crowd of us watching the python, and I have a quick glance, but I'm not one of these people who dwell on looking at them. I think it's natural instinct to assume the very worst possible thing is about to happen when you see a snake, and so you're better off getting out of that situation, aren't you? What's the best advice you were ever given?
Probably my middle-sized older brother, who's like 12 or 13 years older than me, and I was a teenager, and he said that not all is as it seems. Like, you see people and you think this is the case, but it's not. Yeah.
Very profound.
Yeah. I think that's it. Not all is as it seems.
Yeah.
So, you forget that a lot, but it's a nice kind of leveler, right?
Yes.
Because you don't know the person you're talking to, how their day's been or what's going on, and you might think this person's so amazing, and maybe of course they are, but you just don't know.
Maybe they're not. Maybe they're putting on an act. All right, so we'll move on to last couple of questions. So finish this sentence. I live in Hong Kong because... I live in Hong Kong because I had to originally. I didn't have much money. I was divorced, married for 21 years. A friend said, hey, Suzanne, you need to go to Brunei and then come to Hong Kong. It's going to help you out with your finances. So I live in Hong Kong because it's given me... financial security in a way I've never had my entire life, actually. So good. Thank you, Hong Kong. Yes. 10 years later, do you still love Hong Kong in the same way?
Yeah, I love it. I love it for different reasons, of course.
Yes.
It's all about the people you meet along the way. Look, I've worked in some places and I may not have loved the job. In fact, one place I really did not like this particular place, this language school I was teaching in New Zealand, but I made my best friends. So it's all about the people. So I've met people like you.
Yeah, thank you.
Here, my go-to, and Caroline here at Vibe. I made a move a few years ago. I thought, geez, I've got to shake my world up. I live in Gold Coast. I've got to, mix it up and stuff. So I joined the Hong Kong Women's Society group, and I've met...
WIPS, is it?
WIPS.
Women in Publishing.
Women in Publishing Society.
In fact, we have their latest... imprint. Yes.
Imprint 20. Yes, Winsome used to come here.
Winsome Lane. Yes. Winsome used to donate the imprint books. Yeah, and we miss her dearly.
Yes, we do too. That just made me love Hong Kong more because I was in touch with people like Carol Dyer, who's our editor, and we've become good friends. And I've met other cool women and authors who've inspired me on my journey. Because it's all about, these role models and these women who've done it in their way. For me, anyhow, men or women. So I've got to say, I love Hong Kong because I found my I found my vibe. I found people who like similar things.
Yeah.
And honestly, I discovered Lantau because of COVID, because I'm a teacher, high school teacher, and my friend and I were able to hike more, and I didn't know much about hiking. I love running, but so I love Hong Kong because of the fact I can be here and I can be on the island. It's got the vibe, it's got the mix.
Final question is, do you have a favourite area of Hong Kong?
It's where I live, Gold Coast, Wong Gam Hoi On. Yeah, it's where I've lived. Where I live, I've lived there for almost 10 years.
Yes.
And my friend, his partner, sourced a few apartments before I came here, and he had actually lived at Gold Coast himself. And he said, Suzanne, I think this is where you're going to be happy. And also, my high school was close. I just love the hiking, Tai Lam, Su Lam. I can run on the beach. It's really cool. Everyone thinks it's in Hicksville, and you're in the new territories, but for the same reason you're in Moi War. It's it's really nice, and it's got a local community. I mean, you make your community, right? I've got Hito, I've got the supermarket where I say hi to all the women there, and just love being out with nature. I got to say, Gold Coast rocks.
Okay, so now I'm just going to take you back to, you were born in Auckland, you were born in New Zealand, you were in a children's home, weren't you?
I was orphaned, and I lived with different families. When I was younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Siblings?
You mentioned a brother. Three older brothers, much older, like 10, let's say 13, 15 years, and one younger sister. 5 of us.
5 of you.
Yeah, okay, so let me briefly tell you my story.
Yes.
It's the reason that I've... I'm getting emotional. I don't often talk about this these days. Okay, so Gary, so I grew up in Dunedin, South Island, New Zealand, and... So my mum was solo mum, and so she'd had a difficult life. My father died when I was 10. He was alcoholic. He'd had a difficult life anyhow, and so he was 10 when I died. I hardly knew him. Not great memories of some things, domestic violence, etc. And then mum, unfortunately, she met someone and she married that person. And a few months later, he murdered her. It was a crime of passion, which was pretty horrible. I was 12, almost 13 at the time. So, my sister and I were put into different, not foster homes, but different families took us. So I was kind of, my older brothers looked after us, but they were only just new. Let's say my youngest brother was only newly married, just... in their early 20s, etc., and all of a sudden there's the shock of mum's dead, and it wasn't nice. She was stabbed to death. The story in itself, I'm sure I'll write about it one day, but it was actually an all-male jury, and they thought that he only went away for manslaughter for 3.5 years because it was a crime of passion. So I worked my way through that. I navigated my life with the love I had from my mother, incredible love. I've said to people, they said, but how did you get through life without going off the rails, etc.?
Absolutely, at that age,
but it was her love. It was this incredible love that I take with me today. So anyhow, I lived with, I moved to a different city because it was in national news, etc. in the papers. Went to Christchurch, lived there with my brother, but he separated a few months later. I went back to Dunedin. I lived with one family and then another family, and then I lived with another brother, Bill and Jean, and then I went between cities. I went to 2 different high schools, and by the age of 17, I was in Form 6, and I thought I'm going to be a field scholar, AFS. Someone went away and had a good time, and I thought I want to travel. So that was my life. But my sister and I lived with different families. My brothers looked after us with their wives. So appreciative. But yeah, definitely wasn't easy.
Yeah.
But I had people that looked after me and wanted to take care of me. So that's my life pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. As you've gone through life, you've become a teacher. You've started to, you've championed people that have had tough lives and tough upbringings. I think during that time, it as you say, it could have sent you into two directions: off the rails as a teenager, or it could have sent you down the route that you obviously have taken your whole life since then. The teaching that you did in New Zealand, was that for the bullying and the self-esteem thing?
Oh, okay, that came later. So I taught for 15 to 16 years actually. I was a high school English maths teacher, bit of drama, and then I left teaching altogether and spent about 7 years doing other things.
Yes.
And for 3 of those 7 years, let's say, I'd been in sales and recruitment and kind of tried my hand at a few things, which was great. And then I was a bit desperate because I'd been working in sales and it was fine. But I was like, no, I need to do something. And this job came up. It was for KiwiCan, and it was life skills for kids in New Zealand. Yeah. And so I managed that for 3 years, and I grew it. And I had staff that would teach how to combat bullying, how to build self-esteem, etc. in 12 South Auckland schools. I had 16 staff, and they were mainly Pacific Island and Māori. And actually I would employ them, and often they had just left school. They were finding their way, let's say. Some of them were had registered as unemployed. So I was kind of mentoring them and teaching them how to teach values education. And then I also had to get the money. It was funded partially by Foundation for Youth Development in New Zealand, but I had to get most of the money. I was the charitable arm of 2 men who, one was a solicitor and one was an investment banker. I looked after the charity for 3 years. I employed wonderful young people, and they would team teach life skills in schools, and there would be one KiwiCan classroom in the school, and the kids would flock to school, and this was primary intermediate, and the teachers would say that if kids were bunking school, that would be the one day of the week that they would attend, because they had these wonderful mentors who taught them how to aim high, etc. So that was really, really cool. Loved that. Lots of stress. Very busy, but I guess that was my contribution to the world.
Well, a very good and very needed one. Very definitely. How did you get to go to Brunei then? What took you there?
Okay, I was divorced. I was, trying to get financial again, etc. And he said, Suzanne, I think you should come to Hong Kong and teach, and you're not going to get back into teaching unless you go to Brunei. And he found an advertisement in the paper, and he said, you might as well go and apply. So I did. And so I lived on Borneo Island for 2 years and taught English as a second language. So that was an amazing experience in Brunei. It was of course Muslim, and I used to wear a baju kurung, and I loved it. It's kind of like Malaysian Airlines flight attendant, uniforms, gorgeous, and very humbling, and an amazing experience.
And so then that brings you to Hong Kong, where you move to the Gold Coast. You start teaching English, and you spend the next sort of 10 years teaching, but then you decide to change direction. What was the catalyst for you to change?
Okay, so I always loved writing, and I guess it's like you doing what you're doing now, Gary. I always go from here to there. Look, I decided I'd be a fitness instructor at age 47. It's just a change, but I've felt for the last 10 years that's my zone. I love writing. And now, so I thought I'd start off, and if I hadn't joined Women in Publishing, the Women in Publishing Society, I don't think I would be doing what I'm doing now, because I was just so inspired and supported.
Your books are about how you coped to a certain extent, I think, on how people cope. So that must have been brewing up, I think, over the last year or two, perhaps inside you, and you thinking, there's more to life than just doing the 9 to 5 or whatever.
Yeah. In fact, it's been brewing for many, many years. Look, I needed to get financial. I needed to come to Hong Kong. I needed that security. And now that I've got enough, I don't need a lot, but I like small spaces that I can decorate. I like a few nice things, of course, but like you, when's enough? When's enough?
Yes, yeah.
You know, when's enough? So I've got enough. I've got a little house in New Zealand, got a little bit of land in Rarotonga, and now I'm like, you know, I won't have an income in 5 months, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, because it just is, and I just need to do what I'm doing. And look, it's not completely selfless. I've always just, for some reason, I've done lip syncs in schools. I've kind of done fun events. I've run singles events myself, matched people who are married today with kids. I don't know, some people go, oh, Suzanne, have you always been like this? And I go, well, what's this? I don't know, I just do it, and I just get happy, and I get a bit high, and I like motivating people. So I guess it's just what I like doing, and I get a big buzz like you do out of thing, pulling people together, and making things happen that help them to be happy. And I guess it's from that huge sadness that I still carry with me. Come on, it's the huge sadness. It's that gap that, you know, I said to a friend maybe a few months back, you know, actually I'm never going to be right, and I don't think many of us are ever going to be right, whatever that right is. So you do what you need to do, and you take action, and then you meet people like I met my illustrator. I've been searching for 4.5 years. I've started a series which is Nita's World. The protagonist is Nita, the name of my mum actually, which was never intentional, but I needed a protagonist for my fun book series. And then I finally found an illustrator who I could see immediately she could interpret my work, and she's like Dottie Colvin, Colvin. It's just like, wow. So the stars and planets and universes were aligned, and I found her. And so now my life, I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to write and get Nita out there.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit about Queen of the Pawpaws then? Because I've read it, and you gave me a copy when we were here last. I read it, and very entertaining. I totally get the animation is outstanding. Dottie Colvin.
Dottie just received the books, the copies, because I had this printed in December, and her and her family, she couldn't even open the box. She was so excited. She couldn't imagine it either, and it was just like, wow. So she was an animator for 20 years, and she's a cartoonist now. So Queen of the Pawpaws, it's kind of out there, right? So look, my children are Cook Island, Caucasian, let's say. I don't know how we describe ourselves if we need to say anything. I've got 3 older children, and so their dad's Cook Island, and their mum is from New Zealand, Scottish, Jewish ancestry. And so look, I was writing, and I just decided I'd come up with this little story, and I call it Queen of the Pawpaws. I've written a number of short stories, Cook Island short stories. And I'll put them together eventually, talking about Mama and Papa, who were my mother-in-law, father-in-law since deceased, the Piho extended family, Piho. I was Suzanne Piho, which is Cook Island. So there are pawpaws in the Cook Islands, and I didn't realise, seriously, until not that many years ago, that pawpaw or papaya, Nita, actually is the Cook Island word for papaya. And Nita's my mum's name and my first name actually, but she called me Suzanne. So I needed a name for my protagonist, for this woman who was basically going to go off on an adventure. She didn't know where she was going. I didn't know where I was going with my writing, but look, I'm more comfortable with rhyme than, let's say, straight narrative. So look, can I just read a little bit from the start?
Yes.
So look, Nita's this redhead, and I needed a name, and I thought, okay, Nita, and then McPhee. So I'm off to an island, screamed Nita McPhee. I can't wait to be free to find me. Wee-hee. You would think dear Nita was deluded. Why would anyone wish to be excluded from society, propriety, lots of friends, big amens, all that dancing, full-on prancing. So that was kind of me in Auckland. But Nita was ready for change. I shall rearrange my life, get rid of the strife, sever all my ties with civilization. I need an adventure to blow me away. I need some excitement to light up my day. So she's off in a pinky, which is a boat.
Right.
The plane's too lame, and she's off, and she ends up in the Cook Islands. You'll see that in the book. And things are happening there, and I won't ruin it, but there's a bit of an epiphany, and it all ties up, and she suddenly realises why her name is Nita.
Yes.
And she suddenly realises why the local women and men are kind of applauding her because she's queen of the Pawpaws.
Yes.
So she finds herself, but she's on an eternal journey to find herself more. So she sets off. My second book and the third book I've already written. It's all ready. Dottie and I have got them ready. It's the pop sneech, the self-doubt that comes in.
Yes.
And then the third book, she's off to Scotland. She doesn't realise it. And it's Muscletoe. It's not mistletoe, it's Muscletoe, and there are ghost suitors, and there's an island of smee-failed twitches, which is actually just bitches, and she's not the bitch type, and so it's really entertaining, but she has challenges, and it's about what she does and the people that help her.
Yes.
You know, we're never alone.
Yeah.
And if you look back at your life, and for any of us, it's just like, wow. You know, those family members, or I met that friend, and it's people come into her life. So that was a long thing. You got me excited. The fourth book I haven't written yet because I have another series of little pick-me-up books.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the pick-me-up books. They're a kind of spin-off of the Queen of the Pawpaws, aren't they? So
yes, yeah.
What are they called, and what do they signify?
So they're called Nita's Eureka Pick-me-ups.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
And you can hold them in your hand, and they're for women, teenage girls. So I write for women. Let's say adult women. Actually, my books look like they're kids' books because of the illustrations are so lively and gorgeous, but they're very adult. So like my books are inspiration first, humour, kind of hand in hand.
They are humorous,
and gift. And so we believe that when the world sees Nita, it's going to be like, man, she's one fun chick.
Yeah.
And they're going to enjoy it. So anyhow, I've got these little pick-me-ups because I've always been into motivational stuff. And they're like kind of little Mr. Men, little Miss. But in no way other than they're white and they're simple, and I love them cosmetically, but you hold them in your hand. They're basically 20 quotes in a book with an illustration on the front, and I've changed it so it's Doubting Daffy for daffodil. I've got Sweaty Nettie, it's nettle because it's an antioxidant. I've got Divorcing, let's say Daphne, etc.
Yes.
So it's things, single, sweet pea, speech day Sonia. You might have a speech to do, you might be feeling anxious, you might be doubting, and you put them in your pocket or in your handbag or whatever, and you've got 20 quotes. And then I've got an action page at the end so that it gives you something to do, and a note page, and then resources as well.
And you use that little boat, I notice, in the Pawpaws book and on here. Tell us about the boat.
So Nita sets off in a pinky, which is a boat. It's a pinky bar. It's the Cadbury's Pinky Bar, and I didn't even think about that until my son made a card for me. I know.
Yeah.
So he goes, Mum, good on you, because we launched this in December. And then we've got the Pinkies, and I've always loved Pinky Bars, so they're marshmallow and chocolate. But actually, I'm not into sailing. I'm really bad at that and stuff. But the Pinkies it's just Nita in a boat, and I decided it would be the Pinky. So Pinky's got a character of its own, and so she sets off in the Pinky. So you'll see it sailing because it's synonymous with adventure, courage, facing the fear, and learning to live with fear. So the message with the Pinky is, just do it and know that you're going to it's going to be really scary, and learn to live with it.
Yes.
And learn to manage the fear, because the doubts and the fears part of life, right?
Yeah. My
target market is women. But I know of men who were once adolescents who have struggled with suicide. And, you know, one particular person said to me at one stage, and he was younger and went through very difficult times, if he had had my books, because at the time I made a little motivational calendar, if he had had my motivation about life and the way I see it and the way I motivate, it would have actually helped him to get through some things. So I come from a place which I didn't ask to be in, but it's what I was born to do, as corny as that sounds.
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound corny.
It gives me such joy, and if I can help any person when they're going through tough times, to realise that actually you choose your thoughts, you're not your thoughts.
Yes.
You look at your thoughts, as, you know, some spiritual teachers say, and Eckhart Tolle, etc. Look, I kind of, you know, I don't follow anyone. I take little bits from things that resonate from me. But what I've learnt in the last year is you're not your thoughts. You can actually choose your thoughts. You've got a choice to think and go down that tunnel, as in the Pop Sneech, my second book in the Nita's Adventure series. And when you realise you've got a choice, and you can sit back and watch that thought go past, or you can embrace it and go down the tunnel and spiral down with it, that's pretty empowering.
Would you promise to come here and do a talk for us on these books and a presentation? And
thank you. I'm very honoured to be asked, because I'm just a newbie author. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I plan to, by the 1st of May, the plan is I'm going to have my 2 other books and the big series out. I'll have 4 of my little books and some cards. Yeah. So I've got big plans for Nita.
Yeah.
I would very much love to do that. Thank you very much.
So there's a website, isn't there? Already this thing is up and running and starting to breathe some life. Tell us where the website is.
Thank you. So it's nitasworld.co.
So that's Nita's World, not Anita's World. So NITA's.
Yes, NITASWORLD.co. And then when you click on that, it's just a microsite at the moment, but there's enough there. You can actually see where you can order my book. I'm still teaching, so I haven't had time to do that. I'll sell online. But Bookazine, I forgot to mention Bookazine.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Okay.
I mean, so incredibly supportive. Thank you, Bookazine. Honestly, you believed in me. I had a conversation with Shawnee, and she looked at what I had and she goes, yeah, sure, Suzanne, and she got it, and it was really lovely. So look, you can see where to purchase from overseas or here at Bookazine, and I'm building myself as an agony aunt and a pinky.
Yeah.
So you will write to me also.
Okay.
You'll be able to do that soon. I've just started Instagram. So you can write to me. I've written my own kind of funny stuff as well for situations which are interesting. So I'm going to be building that as well as Nita Agony Aunt on a pinky.
Okay. All right. If that makes sense to anybody. It certainly didn't to me. But now I'm starting to learn New Zealand speak and Cook Island and whatever. And I think that's part of the beauty of it, actually, you know. So that just remains for me to say thank you very much for coming today, Suzanne.
Gary, it's been an honour and a privilege, and I don't say that lightly. Thank you so much for facilitating, for inspiring, newbie authors like me with Vibe. So thank you so much.
You can listen to all our Vibrations podcasts published on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Amazon Music, TuneIn and Alexa, Stitcher, Listen Notes, Player FM, SoundCloud, and I don't think there is any others. Or you can watch us on our YouTube channel under Live at Vibe HK, or follow the links from my website at vibehk.com. Our next podcast will feature an interview with local Taos charity helper Carrie Shakeshaft Nicholson. The opening and closing music comes from Celestial and is called Green Island Dub and is on the Retrospect vinyl album On Sale at Vibe. Finally, a reminder that Vibe is open 7 days a week, every day of the year from 12 noon until approximately 6:30 p.m. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for listening to the 38th Vibe Book and Music Shop podcast called VIBErations. I'm Gary Brightman. You get my vibe?
Can you imagine what this old island must have looked like to those Dutch sailors when they first saw it? Fresh green. Like a dream of a new world.
They must have held their breath. Afraid it would disappear before they could touch it.